What's up everyone? In today's game we're going to be looking at my Avenger roster that I posted my competitive build for against a Asgard Weapon X dual affiliation list, which is an interesting combo, not one that I've played against before, so I'm curious to see how it pans out. He also has Thanos in there as a big control piece, which is pretty interesting. So I did win priority. I chose my secures because of the scenario combinations. If I chose my secures, it would lead to a higher scoring total, which was something I was looking for. With priority with Avengers, I normally look at playing the fast scoring game as much as possible and lean into control where and when needed. So on Hammers plus Chondros, I have a few options. Hammers makes me want to bring Dr. Voodoo and Black Cat, because it's pretty easy to steal hammers and to stack them up. Hulk is also amazing here, especially with Prio, because I can grab one safely and retreat and then get going from there. This means that I'm going on Steve's leadership to do all of this. Go back and forth to if I should bring Pyro or not this game. I really like Sam to help Black Cat do some steals if I go with Black Cat. I also like Pyro because he could potentially help me drop some extracts if needed. He also has a lot of game into Thanos, because it's Asgard, I think that Pyro's not going to be as good as it could be. So just go for my standard 20 threat, like default cookie cutter setup with both Black Cat, Dr. Voodoo, Steve, Hulk, and Sam. Like just the most basic, nasty combination. So one thing to note here, my opponent made a mistake with the way he set up the map, because now there is one site that can be easily safe extracted on for him, and I have two, because on the right side for me is left. The tower is going to block Bill from doing the eyes on the prize play. But in medium base, you don't have a lot of room, and I'm pretty sure that the way he's placed right now, he cannot reach the center and run away. So Black Cat is easily going to be able to steal. So that means that I can also set up Sam for the airlift for the runaway play. If he goes with eyes on the prize still to grab at range 2. I cannot reach with airlift, I believe. So maybe I can still reach. I'd have to test it out. Normally I assume I cannot, and I just don't do it. So here at first he looks for the eyes on the prize play still, but like it's not gonna reach. If you look at it, you can see like it's not gonna make it. He still looks. He did not use the card though. It would have been interesting for him to use it with Thanos, to be honest. There's probably some spicy plays at that point with Thanos with it, but it does mean that I get the easy steal with Black Cat to grab his hammer and then come back to safety. Not that I'm threatened by much. I do throw a shield with Sam. I deal no damage. I don't care. I gain a power, which I use to R&D to Black Cat. So now Black Cat is ready to steal, and life's looking good. So he goes with Thor on the other side. Just goes on his back Scoundrel. That's the thing on Scoundrel that I find is always awkward. Going 4 wide on Scoundrel is always, it's tricky. See, like I have a little bit of room, so maybe if he's max 2, I can still reach. But 2 is so much bigger than 1. I think I still don't. I'll have to test it out. So I try to figure out where I want to run away with Black Cat. I end up just choosing to go like towards more of my models, well, instead of running further to the side, because if I run more to the side, I will not be able to protect with Steve with a bodyguard, because next round, because he didn't do the ice play, one advantage is he's guaranteed to have the power to throw the size 4 building, which is really unpleasant. It means that he could just throw it into Black Cat as his first activation, and maybe just dazer like that. And then my life is pretty awkward. It's something I'm really afraid of. So this is why I also bring Steve in the air, so that if he doesn't daze me with I can survive. I can then bodyguard like any attack, right? There is a counterplay that he could do with Thanos, and right now the thing I'm the most scared of is with Thanos, if with Thanos he goes over here and then uses his portal to move Steve off of the point. This is not off of the point because I'm not on the point, but if he just sends me like somewhere over here, like outside of bodyguard range of Black Cat, he could next round go with Bill, like move over here and then throw the terrain into Black Cat and then strike Black Cat and probably Dazer and get back the hammer, and that could be really bad for me. So this is the main thing I'm scared of. And like otherwise, if he just moves on like portals, either Hulk, right? See, he's in range for Steve, he's in range for anyone with his cosmic portal. If he portals, because he's got the mind gem, he could even move Steve twice, or like portal him this way and then like mind stone him, and then start beating him up with Thanos, sorry, which could be pretty awkward. I'm happy that he doesn't do this. Instead, he goes to displace Sam, which is annoying, but it's not the end of the world because I've got Dr. Voodoo left, so basically, if he displaced Hulk or Sam, I was just going to send Dr. Voodoo to sit back on the objective that he moves me off of. So I get some free tempo off of this because I now have 3 hammers and I am not threatened for the next round. Like, it's a less obvious play, the one that I'm talking about moving Steve, but it is the 100% like the play that I was scared of. So I'm glad that my opponent did not see it, because if he had, I could have been in deep trouble. Well, I don't know how deep, but pretty deep, I think. I would have had some counterplay to Bill, like grabbing the hammer, like we'll see with Dr. Voodoo. It would still have put me in a pretty awkward spot compared to right now, where now I feel really good. I'm still scared of the throw, to be honest. I expect him to throw with Bill into Black Cat. He's gonna opt to pass instead, which I'm really happy for, because now Black Cat can run away and reposition to safety, because if Black Cat can go in a safer spot, I can keep her alive this round and then potentially steal a hammer on the following round, or then just double move and go into an objective or something. Just have like some more options with her while still scoring victory points and making sure I keep that hammer advantage. Because as long as I've got the hammer advantage, I can play. I do not need to force anything on the secures, and my opponent cannot really play this secure game really well, because if you look at it right now, right, if we look at it, to do 5-4, my opponent needs to leave Thor over here and like Valkyrie over there. But if he does that, he doesn't have enough points left to pressure my hammers. He will need to abandon his side of the secures. But as he does that, if he fails to daze my models that are holding hammers, then I'm still going to be scoring more points, even if we tie the secures, right? And I'm going to slowly get some attrition going, hopefully my way, but it could go his way. The attrition is going to be trickier, but as long as I maintain that scoring lead, I'm planning to win this game pretty fast right now. Right, by scoring 5 points this round, I am aiming at a round 3 or 4 victory. Round 3 will be rough because there's a Thanos on the other side, but round 4 seems like a good plan. So Valkyrie comes in, attacks Dr. Voodoo. His goal is to try to daze him, but he was maybe expecting me to bodyguard this, I don't know, but I'm happy to take a bit of damage on Voodoo and chance it because I want more power. My game plan right now with Voodoo is to possess Thanos, if possible this round, which right now is, or next round, right? But as soon as possible, because dazing him is going to be complicated, and like in the short term, like maybe with Hulk over time, but like that's so dicey because Thanos can be extremely tanky. I'd rather not try to go that route, but if I can possess him and then he's got a Nate threat model that cannot score, it can be pretty tricky. So he goes for the throw. So normally you're supposed to go the whole way to show that you're creating the collision, but it's pretty obvious. So Dr. Voodoo takes a collision, and because of the rules for least disturbance, Sam stays on the other side of Valkyrie, which is neat because it means that Sam is not on the objective right away. But I'm happy because after that block where I took a few more damage but rolled a skull again, it's the second skull I roll on Voodoo, and I have 6 power, so I only need 2 more power to possess Thanos. Only 2. That's not a lot. It's gonna be fairly easy to get 2 power. I'm expecting. Like, 1 attack is supposed to give me 2 power here. In between it doesn't have any power, so the odds are probably a bit less good, but in between rolling a skull and dealing damage, 2 damage or more with 6 dices, I have pretty good odds. I do get it. I move within 3 of Thanos, I possess him, he drops his hammer, and now I'm feeling really good about this game. I dropped the hammer towards Hulk for 2 reasons. The main one is I don't have any power on Voodoo, so I cannot pick it up with Voodoo. And if I send it on the right side, Bill can grab it, and then it's gonna be annoying. Bill is so tanky. He's tankier than Thor overall. The other thing is, on the other side, Thor could go and grab it, right? If he double moves, well, moves and then probably 4 Asgards. But if he does that, he's not standing on any secures, and I get to strike him back with Hulk after. And on his 4 Asgard attack, with 6 dice against 4 with cover, because I'm going to be on the Scoundrel and not him, and me having access to rerolls, including skulls, I think I have close to 70% chance of not taking damage on that attack. And if he doesn't deal any damage, I don't get staggered, and then Thor is in deep trouble. Even if he staggers me, it's not the end of the world, honestly, but if he doesn't, it's even better for me. So as you can see, he's got 4 successes. I've got 2 for rerolls. I sadly do not get a 3rd success, and combine with cover to take no damage. I take 1 and get staggered. This is probably the worst outcome, taking just 1, so like I really don't have a lot of power to do anything after. He does get the hammer, so now Thor is now my main target, but I've got Hulk that's going to be messing him up, especially that I am in range to throw the size 3 terrain into him. But just to go with Sam, just charging onto the back onto the objective with the goal of getting Valkyrie off of it with some shield trolls if possible. So first one, no damage, so no push. We try again. Second one does connect for 1 damage, and I get to push her off. Here though, my opponent goes with a play that I did not expect, which is a Rainbow Bridge off of Bill to get in position to strike Dr. Voodoo. It's pretty neat, so he gets to strike him twice. I will bodyguard with Steve, because if I can keep Dr. Voodoo LT this round, it's massive. I do take 1 damage on that first strike, which is pretty good for me because it means I can bodyguard again. So I bodyguard the second one, and I roll a decent block with 2 blocks. My opponent has 6 successes on his 5 dice strike. It's unlikely to happen, but overall, I think I'm super fine with it. It does suck because it means that Steve is dazed, and he could have been useful. But, and I think the saddest part for me is that Bill managed to make 3 power backs, so he could throw the size 4 into Voodoo, and he dazed him that way. Could have just dazed him by like double moving and throwing the terrain, but he got to daze Steve, which overall it's annoying based off of like the sequence he went for. So here I throw the size 3 into Thor. He takes a bit of damage, and then I strike him with my 8 dice strike. Maybe I was a little short on the throw, but like the movement tool was offering over it. But like here I see with the shadow, maybe I wasn't. Anyways, I punch him after. He Odin's Blessing. He doesn't use his leadership though to heal himself. Could have been relevant. So here Thanos moves. He will Mind Stone Hulk out of position, which is annoying. Not the end of the world. He's not in range for. He did measure to be within 3 of Hulk for the Mind Stone, so doesn't get to be in range to mess up Black Cat, but he can portal Sam, and then he can even portal Beta Ray Bill onto the objective that Sam was on, so that's really good for him, as it gives him an extra victory point right there. But because Thanos is still possessed for now, because that Brother Voodoo Daniel token is pretty broken, so even when you're dazed, you like leave it on your opponent for now. They're probably gonna change this one day, I guess, but for now that's how it works. So little accident here with grabbing Voodoo instead of moving the angle, which by the way you're not supposed to measure unless you're doing something that has one. It's not the end of the world. I inform my opponent and we move on. So he strikes Sam and he dazes him. It's unfortunate, but that's not like, I almost prefer him dazing at that point because he had very few life left, so that way at least next round gonna have a full 5 health, hopefully not get dazed or KO'd instantly. Alright, so here the interesting thing is because he passed and dazed Steve, I get priority. So that means that with Hulk I can Gamma Leap and then try to daze Thor, which with 2 attacks is very likely to happen, and potentially a throw. And once that happens, I have 2 hammers on Hulk, and based on how the game is going, the game is likely to end before he can like daze Hulk at this point. Because if I daze Thor this round and Thor is not doing anything, his Thanos is kind of like busy handling everyone else. His Better Ray Bill is in theory not a really good model to just strike people, but even though so far he's been doing a good job into Steve. Yeah, I do one-shot him. It's kind of a good thing that he didn't heal Thor at this point, because with that dice roll of 6 successes, he was taking 5 damage. So yeah, not many ways where he would have lived. I guess if I wasn't in range for the throw last round and he used Odin's Blessing on the shots, he could have not used Odin's Blessing on the other shot, would have taken like 4 or 5 damage and then like a bunch more here. Like use Odin's Blessing here and like maybe I daze him with a throw after. But anyways, I'm more surprised that, yeah, the one thing, he had patch up, so he probably could have used patch up off of Thanos to heal Thor before my activation with Oak, so that he could have maybe survived. But with the damage roll I just rolled, it's probably a better thing that he didn't. But insight is 20/20. But he could have made it more awkward had he used patch up, which is something he noticed in game. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You could have patched him up and made it harder for me. So here, basically, my opponent is worried about Black Cat coming in and stealing the hammer off of Bill, which is something that's gonna happen at some point if Bill stays there. So he throws Steve. He throws him into the car, but I don't like where he threw him because, oops, I'm just gonna wait for them. If he had thrown him more around this sign, I would have not been in range to still bodyguard Dr. Voodoo. Right now I'm in range to bodyguard Dr. Voodoo, which is pretty free. It means that he has that extra layer of work that he needs to do to attack Dr. Voodoo, compared to if he had thrown him away. And if he had thrown him away, then I probably need to consider activating Voodoo or something. So here the one thing is Valkyrie is a bit of damage, so if I'm lucky, I can maybe daze her before she activates. And if I've dazed 2 of his models before they activate this round, it's going to be really hard for my opponent to recover, right? Because as I've mentioned in my video about building this roster, it's the one thing on like Scoundrels that can be really rough. If you get a lot of models that get dazed before they activate in a round, sure you get priority the next round, but are so far behind in terms of scoring that it can be game losing on its own. Here, because Steve is still in range to bodyguard Dr. Voodoo, I can afford to play Sam instead of Steve or Dr. Voodoo or Black Cat, but more likely than not one of the other two. So that means that I can use Sam to airlift Black Cat and charge back onto the Scoundrel token. By the way, Sam is just amazing, and this game is doing a lot of overtime with those airlifts and charges. Creating a lot of work for my opponent. And here he gets the good old Sam spike, you know, four dices. I'm doing what Better Ray Bill did, getting more hits than the number of dices I've rolled, dazing Valkyrie, which is massive. If I just dealt a bit of damage and pushed her, I would have already been happy. And that's why this move was good, almost no matter what the result was, because I have now Black Cat in bodyguard range, Dr. Voodoo in bodyguard range. Black Cat can now threaten potentially to steal the hammer off of Better Ray, even though, to be honest, that is not necessarily the play I would go for, because let's say that I go with Black Cat, right, and double move and steal. Next round my opponent has Prio. So even if I do this, like say as my last activation, Bill can just double tap Black Cat and then throw a terrain into her, like, and probably daze her. Or like strike her once, throw the terrain, you know, and like, I'm not optimistic that I survive that, especially if there's like a Death's Decree from Thanos thrown in there. So what I would more likely than not do with Black Cat, before I go further, is probably just double, I'll just use the other one, probably just double move and go like either here, ideally to that back point if I reach it. This one is like an okay backup, depending on where Thanos ends also. Is round, but like if I could reach that one, I'd be pretty happy. And I've still got Dr. Voodoo and Black Cat left to go. He only has Thanos, so he passes. What I'll do with Dr. Voodoo at that point is just move him a little bit more backwards, just to create distance in between myself and Thanos, to make it more awkward for him to attack me, right? Because when you've got the advantage on this scenario, which I do right now because I've got 3 hammers. Right? With 3 hammers, I'm considering where I'll move. I'd like to go on another secure to kind of like ramp up the pressure scenario-wise, but I'd rather be more conservative. I stay in range of getting bodyguarded, because by being further back, he needs to move to portal Dr. Voodoo, for instance. So that means that Thanos is not going to be able to attack twice, which is like so far a recurring theme this game, right? Even earlier with Hulk, I threw Thanos away after dazing Thor. For that reason, I just basically want to make sure that his Thanos spends as many actions as possible moving instead of doing attacking, because he's a nade threat model. So every time he moves and doesn't attack, it's a lot of threat that's just moving. With the possession, those move actions are really, like, they don't feel, I'm sure he doesn't feel happy about having to move that much. He does make up for it by having, like, because Thanos, we never talk about his attacks as much as his control, but he's still got really good attacks. A 6 dice strike with a wild throw, and his size is really strong, and his range attack, it's got a automatic push and slow on a wild, which is really nasty. I do end up right here recalling the Brother Voodoo token because I feel like I'd rather take less damage if possible. Thanos is not going to be on an objective this round, so no matter what, it's better for me this way. And next round is, you know, I'll figure out next round. He does roll a insane attack roll, getting 7 successes on because he spent 1 power to roll 6 dice on his energy attack. And here you see with Black Hat, I'm looking at where to go. I end up going in the center because we'll check it out in a second. What's the map is like nicer. All right, because now I'm still scoring as many points as if I went to one of the other objectives, but I'm still close to Hulk. So even if he dazes Black Cat, whoever dazes Black Cat, right, like say he dazes Black Cat, can probably daze whoever dazed Black Cat with Hulk. It also means that for me, if he fails to daze her or doesn't go after her, I can move, steal the hammer off of Better Ray Bill, and then run away probably over here or around this area and like create a lot of distance and make everything super awkward. So I score a bunch of points this round with 3 hammers and 2 secures for 5 victory points. I think my opponent could have moved me off of the Scoundrel token. I'm not 100% certain, but I think there was a way they could have. Maybe not. I think they forgot to use the Mind Stone, now that I look at it. I might be wrong. And they could have moved like Sam off of the Scoundrel, which would have been good for them. But here we are, it's 12-9. Thor went with a 4 Asgard and he goes into Black Cat. I think here my opponent could have tried some riskier plays. I think I would have maybe done a 4 Asgard into Hulk. I think I would have thrown Hulk. Right, just pause this for a second. One play that I just see, right? If you had thrown Hulk into Black Cat before moving, and then went for a 4 Asgard, Div the Kree into Hulk to stagger Hulk, and throw Hulk into Black Cat again, hopefully, and then potentially attack Black Cat after to finish her off, would have been better, probably, because I would have been he would have probably staggered Hulk off of like 10 dices. Here I am brace with Black Cat, but not with Hulk, because I want the extra power on Hulk for to have more options. Here he goes for the Death Decree on the second shot, but yeah, I think with better sequencing, there could have been some nasty options for my opponent. Would they have been good enough to win him the game? Not necessarily, but they would have put him in a much better spot. Because here instead, he's gonna daze Black Cat, but then Hulk's gonna have like barely any damage, and the stagger feels kind of wasted because he dazes Black Cat after anyways. So yeah, I think there could have been a better sequencing to maybe get some potentially really nasty stuff going on. I'll take it. I'd rather, sometimes it's you win because of your opponent's mistake, or they make your life easier, right? So here now this is kind of like okay for me because Hulk can easily KO, right? I was not expecting necessarily to win this round, at this point, but I can still see ways that I win this round if possible. Right, my goal now is to daze Thanos. Right, if I can daze Thanos this round before your Thanos activates, it's gonna be massive. Or even after he activates. If it's after he activates, maybe I don't daze him this round, but set myself up to daze him the following round. So we throw terrain into him, he takes the damage. We go for a Staff of Phlegma, roll 4 successes, Thanos block none, so he takes a good 3 damage. Only 1 wild, I say only because with only 1 he loses a power but he doesn't take damage because of his damage reduction, so we go for a second one. I'm happy because I've dealt a bunch of damage into him with my 1 life Dr. Voodoo, so in my eyes, no matter what happens here, I'm kind of like happy with the outcome, as long as I deal a bit more damage with the goal of, you know, KOing him as fast as possible while dazing him. I do end up dazing him on the second Staff of Legba, so that's pretty good for me. Now Valkyrie comes in, she's got a lot of power, so Valkyrie with a lot of power can potentially deal a lot of damage with her when she does all package, which she is doing. So she went for Warrior of Legend, does a charge Warrior of Legend into Sam. She rolls, yeah, 4, 6, 7, 8. She's got 9 successes, so yeah, Sam explodes. 9 successes on 7 dice is quite a lot, but you know, it happens. I can't really, you know, like, this game is extremely violent. The dice rolls have been very generous on offense, right? Which happens, like, you should expect it in MCP to happen more often than not. With the way the dices work, you can get a lot of those instances of crazy damage. So Steve gets it with the flurry attack. I Vibranium Shield. I'm not taking any chances of getting dazed or anything. And then Valkyrie throws Voodoo into Steve. Steve blocks 1, takes 2. So I'm back to 4 power on Steve, but I've got 3 life left, so another strike, this time no Warrior of Legend though. I still boost my defense, I'm not taking any chances. I want to keep as many hit points as possible in Steve because I want to make sure I don't die. Because if Steve dies here, I don't know if I can win the game, honestly. After losing Sam to that first strike, I was hoping to live through the first one. But I'm kind of glad I didn't bodyguard it with Steve, because losing Steve would have been even worse. So I go with Steve, I strike first, go to like the strike, not the shield throw, because it has a wild push. I do not get the wild, I deal no damage, but I had enough power for a shield slam, so I shield slam, which is a guaranteed throw, so I throw Valkyrie into Thanos, forcing the brace out, which is nice because that means that my plan of like KOing Thor with Hulk is much more viable if I need to go that route. But because I've got already 12 victory points, I only need to score 4. And right now, Hulk is scoring me 3 victory points. So all I need, and Steve was scoring 1 before Bill got here. So if I can get, I could go after Thor, but that's like really dicey. With no matter the cost and a spender, it's probably kind of safe, honestly. But I've got a diceless option because of the score. Addy managed to put me at 11 instead of 12. I would have went for the KO on Thor, but here I don't need to. I can just go for the safe place. So I go with a Camel Leap. Basically, I was barely touching the base. I like re-angled properly, but I could have made it no matter what. It's not really like, this was pretty trivial. I just Gamma Leap, move, throw, move, basically. So as long as I could do this, and then I score 4 points. He scores 2, so the game ends 16-12. In a 9 VP game, it's kind of like what you would expect the score to look like. So like, yeah, a few small mistakes from my opponent really just gave me those small edges to really leverage into a kind of safe victory. I'm not gonna lie, overall I felt in control for most of the game. When Dr. Voodoo took 5 damage on that 6 dice strike from Thanos, I was feeling a bit more under pressure. Had I not dazed Thanos with Dr. Voodoo at that specific point in time, would have been a really tricky game after. Because if he still goes with the Valkyrie play, he gets a Death Decree in an attack somewhere in there. So like instead of doing for the throw, could have went with a strike into Steve with Dev's Decree, and then if he gets enough power, do the throw. There could have been some really awkward and nasty stuff. Yeah, so that was pretty big for me, but it's part of the game. You always have to roll and adapt to the situation. But yeah, the Avengers still feeling pretty good. I would have been happy for Sam to not get destroyed like this, but you know, that's part of the game. So that's it for this one. Thanks.